Hello, time for a new game here. We are still at the Tal Memorial in Moscow, and it's time for the classic matchup, Magnus against Hikaru. And as you might know, Hikaru is Magnus' favorite opponent because he always wins against Hikaru. Hikaru is playing very good against everyone else except Magnus. Must be something psychological. Here is a little bit of an interesting stuff. Hikaru plays c6 here. That's a sign that he wants to do dc4 and maybe b5 down, so Magnus covers the pawn. Let's also get some computer help here. So if now when Magnus does d4, this is a typical Catalan position, which is fairly balanced. So knight e5 is interesting because it allows black to change the structure here with this. Which is, I don't think this is not a bad change for black, because if white does like this, then this bishop is a bit silly here, but maybe white could do something here on the f-file in the long run, but the computer is not very impressed by white's play here. So maybe something like this is better. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not so impressed with this knight e5. It looks like black can gain quite a comfortable position here. So let's see what happened. Hikaru did this one. The computer doesn't like it because white can take here apparently. Then play here and try to sack a pawn. So if he takes the pawn, and apparently white has great compensation here, and this is clearly better despite being down a pawn, and he has no obvious counterplay. But yeah, it's a bit hard for black to castle. That's interesting actually, that the computer likes this so much for white, because from a human perspective this looks I would say this would look good for black, that it looks like white does not have enough compensation for the pawn here, but apparently white is winning here. So that's interesting. That's actually very interesting. So Magnus didn't understand that he should sack that pawn. Instead he plays that. And black plays c5. Now he takes. And then does d5. Yeah, that's probably the best way to keep the position interesting. And here Hikaru makes a blunder. It would have been best to take something like this. And it looks like black can play here, castle, knight f6, and looks fairly even. Maybe a little bit better for white, but looks quite okay for black here. Let's see. Yeah, looks like the worst is over here. So after e5, the computer likes white a lot. Why? Hard to say why, but it must be that it's lots of weakness here. Maybe take, trade, knight c3 and stuff like that, I guess. The position is so bad for black that the computer wants to trade queens here by doing like this. And this seems that it's probably going to be better for white because this b3 is a bit weak here. But apparently if this is the best black can do, then it's really bad here. So let's see what happened. Magnus does. The computer prefers a5 or rook ac1. So he basically just wants, I don't know. Interesting. Doesn't look so clear here what the computer wants. Like you can do like that. Like rook c1, castle, queen here, f5. Little bit weird that the computer thinks white is winning here. It's just not so easy for a human to understand that the pawns are equal. So it's a bit of a confusing here, but I'm sure for the players also they didn't understand that white is winning here. At least not Hikaru. Maybe that, yeah, he can't do anything else, has to do that. No, it's starting to look a little bit bad for black because white can advance with his pawns here quite sharply here. Apparently it was best to do d6 at once, so black couldn't sack a exchange here. But he didn't do that. Best chance for black here would have been rook a6 and then with d6 just take and play an exchange down. But he did something else, and now Magnus has a very good center here and black is very passive. So now even I can understand that this is winning for white, but it was hard to understand that before because yeah, we don't I don't calculate as long as the computer does. But it seems here that I see red moves coming up, so Magnus is making some blunder, maybe letting Hikaru getting back in the game. Also g5 looks really, but the computer likes it, but it just looks, g5 just looks so risky to get, like to open your king with g5 just looks completely wrong, but whatever. Let's go to the mistakes here and see what's happened. So easiest way for white to win is here, take this one, take this pawn, and then getting in like that. Let's look at that. He can even take without taking here because he can't take because of this apparently. What happens if it takes? Okay, and he's getting mated. I see. or actually not mated, but he has to play this kind of a position. Queen down. But instead he did rook e3, and then it allowed black to do a tactic that would almost have equalized here. Black should have played this one. Typical tactic. Strange that both players missed this one. It's quite it's a very easy tactic, this one, to miss if you're a Grandmaster. I think it would. If I would have missed this tactic, I would have been embarrassed. And I'm just a FIDE master. So the point is, of course, here, and now it's some kind of a pin here, so this gets traded and black has some counterplay here. You can't even take because this one, I guess. No, apparently this one, and then very strong blockading knight here, escorting the pawn. So maybe. So what can they have missed? They must have seen. Like both of them must have seen rook e5. Like this. They must have seen this far, and they must have seen this and this. And both of them must have thought this is just winning for white, it's an exchange up. But actually black has some nice counterplay here on the queen side. So it must have been this c4 and this evaluation that they didn't see, is my guess. Okay, so Magnus was lucky there, and Hikaru played like that instead. And Magnus still doesn't find the right way, which is to go here and just take it. Like, you don't want to trade this bishop usually, but it's just this f6 square. When the white queen gets here, that's just an overwhelming attack, apparently. So let's see what happened. And again, he could take on e5, and now he does it and sees it, but it's too late now because so apparently it was correct to play rook e3 here. Yeah, black doesn't have his play here with c4 and knight c5 and pushing the pawn. So now it's no good. And here apparently Magnus makes a mistake. He plays this one to force the trade of a rook also. And here actually, if interestingly, if the white king could have gotten to d6 here, the position would have been even, as you can see, but Magnus can play d6 and cutting off the king here, so he's still winning. Quite interesting. And now there is some tactical problems here, like if he takes maybe d7 here and pinning the knight or something. I don't know, it looks like some potential tactical problems for black to stop the pawn here. So let's see what happened. Rook. Yeah, that c4 didn't give so much. I wonder really what they tried. It must have been this thing here. But yeah, the rook can. Yeah, it's a little bit dangerous. I thought rook b2, rook f2 to here, but if black plays b3, then rook here, bishop here, and the pawn is like queening. But I guess white's pawns are too strong. Let's look at that maybe. So the way to win is to play here. Yeah, and white gets his queen with check and is mating. I see. So that's why Hikaru does like that. And now he goes back with the bishop, but it's, in my opinion, it's in the long run this position is lost, so he has to try with the pawn, but it's they have calculated to the end that it's just lost here anyway, I guess. So let's see what happens. And white wins. So if, let's see, he goes here, then c6. Okay, that's a nice trick. And he wins this endgame apparently. I see, that's interesting. That is interesting to memorize that these two passed pawns and a rook, they don't need a king. They can queen here against bishop and queen and king alone apparently. That's interesting. Yeah, nice game. Next time we're going to meet the famous freaking legend Gatakamsky. So let's see when Magnus plays him. See you then.